They will betray you. They will dismiss you. They will underestimate you. That's the script, and for most people it works. They shrink, explain, beg for approval. The system feeds on this reflex. But some minds refuse. Betrayal becomes training. Exile becomes clarity. Humiliation becomes X-ray vision. They don't collapse. They transform. Carl Jung admitted that nothing unsettled him more than a person who cannot be deceived by appearances. In certain individuals, especially those marked by suffering, emerges a power the world isn't prepared to face, a force that cuts through illusions and breaks the hidden contracts that keep society asleep. This is dark spiritual intelligence. You can't learn it in classrooms or collect it in degrees. It's forged in betrayal, exile, humiliation, loss. Most drown there. A few resurface sharper. They read the tremor in a voice, the glance a second too long, the pattern beneath chaos. They stand steady while the ground shakes. Have you felt it? That certainty someone is lying before proof arrives. A dream revealing more than the morning news. The day you stopped chasing approval and realized you never needed it. That is the seed of dark intelligence. It grows each time you refuse to collapse, each time your presence speaks louder than defense. This intelligence is feared not because it makes you cruel, but because it makes you ungovernable. You can't be bribed by praise, subdued by exclusion, or manipulated by shame. When you no longer collapse on cue, the script fails. And when the script fails, the system trembles. Think of it, a dinner table where a cruel joke dies in your silence. A negotiation where you sit steady, willing to walk away. A relationship where you stop chasing and the dynamic dies in their hands. The cost is real. People will call you cold, arrogant, intimidating. They'll label you too much or too strange. Those labels aren't truths about you. They're cracks in the illusions you expose. Today, I'll reveal 8 ruthless lessons that turn pain into perception, wounds into strategy, solitude into sovereignty. Before we begin, write this line in the comments. I choose clarity over comfort. Because clarity is the first gate into dark spiritual intelligence, the refusal to be comforted by lies, even when truth isolates you. This isn't decoration or entertainment. It's survival code. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you awaken it, you can't go back. Jung warned, dangerous knowledge carries responsibility. Use it to defend, not destroy. Train the weapon you already carry until you become untouchable. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll discover the traits that separate survivors from victims, leaders from followers, untouchable minds from the easily deceived. It is rare. It is dangerous. It is yours if you dare to claim it. So let us begin. The discipline of obscurity. The first ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: do not reveal everything. We live in an age of exposure. People live stream their emotions, publish their doubts, and narrate their private lives in desperate attempts to be seen. They believe that transparency builds trust, but in truth, it erodes power. Every detail you give away becomes someone else's leverage. Every unnecessary confession becomes a tool in another's hand. Carl Jung once remarked that the psyche is unsettled by what it cannot fully grasp, and Niccolò Machiavelli echoed the same truth centuries earlier. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are. This is not cynicism. It is strategy. Mystery unsettles because it forces others to imagine, and imagination, once awakened, often has more influence than reality. Think about silence in conversation. Most people rush to fill it, spilling explanations, softening edges, revealing insecurities. But the one who waits, who speaks in fragments, who offers only what is necessary, that person controls the rhythm. Their words weigh more because they are rare. Picture a workplace meeting. One employee nervously justifies every choice, detailing the entire process to prove they worked hard. Another calmly states the conclusion in a single sentence. Which one commands more respect? The voice that left space, that carried weight without noise. Or imagine a personal scene. A friend asks, "What are you doing this weekend?" Most people list errands, movies, meals. Predictable, forgettable. But you answer, "I have something important to take care of." Then you let the subject drop. The vagueness is not rudeness, it is electricity. Suddenly, they lean in, wondering. Their imagination builds a story around you, and that story grants you presence. This discipline does not mean lying. It does not mean playing games or withholding intimacy from those who deserve it. It means choosing when and how to reveal, instead of bleeding out every truth by reflex. It means recognizing that your information is your currency, and wise people do not spend all their currency at once. Consider relationships. Oversharing in the first weeks may feel honest, but it often breeds carelessness in others. They know too much, too soon, and your essence loses its weight. Controlled revelation, on the other hand, keeps the bond alive. Curiosity sustains interest. Mystery sustains respect. Even spiritual teachers have known this. Ancient mystics never disclosed their full visions to the crowd. They spoke in parables, in fragments, in symbols. Why? Because truth given all at once is wasted. Truth given in doses transforms. So the discipline of obscurity is not about deception, it is about narrative control. You decide which fragments to show, and which to keep in shadow. You decide the pace at which others earn access to your depths. In a noisy world, restraint is radical. In a manipulative world, restraint is power. Ask yourself this tonight. Do I speak to ease my own anxiety, or to shape how I am remembered? Write your answer in the comments. Because the moment you see the difference, you will understand why the most dangerous minds are never fully known. The adaptive persona, the second ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence, is this. You cannot be the same person everywhere. Most people cling to one rigid identity. They pride themselves on saying, "I'm always myself, no matter the situation." It sounds noble, but in reality, it is naive, because different people, different rooms, and different struggles require different faces. If you bring the same mask to every stage, you fail to connect. Machiavelli once warned, a prince must learn how to color his actions to suit the times. Jung too observed that the psyche is not one solid block, but a constellation of archetypes: the mother, the warrior, the healer, the trickster. To live well, we must learn when to let each one step forward. Think of water. It takes the shape of any container it enters: glass, river, ocean, yet it never stops being water. Your adaptive persona works the same way. You remain yourself, but you shape your presence to the vessel before you. Imagine this. You walk into a boardroom filled with sharp, analytical minds. If you try to charm them with emotion, they will see you as frivolous. But if you speak in facts, data, strategy, they lean in. Later that evening, you sit with an old friend grieving a loss. If you use facts and logic here, you will sound cruel. But if you mirror their emotion, their silence, their grief, you connect. Same self, different face. Or picture a job interview. One candidate recites the same stiff script to every question, insisting they are being authentic. Another studies the interviewer's rhythm, notices their values, adjusts tone and language accordingly. Who walks away with the offer? The one who adapted. Adaptation is not manipulation. Manipulation deceives for selfish gain. Adaptation communicates for understanding. When you adjust your voice, your pace, your posture, you are not betraying yourself. You are making yourself legible to another human being. But here lies the warning. If you adapt so much that you forget your core, you become hollow. You become what others need, but lose the anchor of who you are. The discipline is to remain water flexible in form, unchanging in essence. Ask yourself, when was the last time you failed, not because you lacked truth, but because you delivered it in the wrong form? Write it below. Because the moment you see this pattern, you begin to realize the most powerful people are not the loudest or the most consistent. They are the ones who can speak every language without ever losing their own. The principle of detachment, the third ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence, is this: what you are not afraid to lose cannot control you. Most people are shackled by invisible chains. Their job, their relationship, their reputation. They cling so tightly that they accept humiliation just to keep what they fear losing. Detachment breaks those chains. Machiavelli once wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, it is far safer to be feared than loved." Jung, from another angle, observed that the psyche collapses when it identifies too completely with an attachment. In both cases, the truth is the same. Dependency makes you weak. Imagine two people negotiating a deal. Person A needs it desperately. They've already planned their future around it. Person B would like the deal, but they know they have other options. Who holds more power? The one who can walk away. Detachment sharpens your position, because desperation leaks through every gesture, every word, every silence. Now picture a relationship. One partner fears abandonment, so they bend every boundary to avoid conflict. They apologize for things they didn't do, suppress feelings to keep the peace, perform affection on demand. Over time, the fear of loss hollowed them out. Meanwhile, the partner who could tolerate being alone dictates the rhythm of the bond. Detachment is not coldness, it is freedom. Or consider a career example. An employee terrified of being fired tolerates exploitation, unpaid overtime, disrespect, stifled growth. Another employee, secure in their own competence, knows they can survive anywhere. They negotiate harder, set boundaries, and paradoxically are treated with more respect. Here is the paradox. The less you need something, the more power you have in relation to it. Detachment gives you clarity. It clears the fog of desperation so you can see choices, patterns, exits. But beware, detachment does not mean apathy. It does not mean refusing to care, refusing to commit, refusing to love. It means caring deeply while refusing to let fear of loss dictate your behavior. It is choosing from freedom, not from desperation. Ask yourself, where in your life are you being controlled by the terror of losing? And what would change if you accepted that loss as survivable? Write it in the comments. Because the moment you can imagine life without the chain begins to crack, and that crack is where power enters. Silent leverage. The fourth ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: influence does not always shout, sometimes it whispers. Most people think power is loud. They think it's about raising your voice, demanding, threatening. But real leverage often moves in silence. You don't push directly, you position yourself so that others move around you. Machiavelli once wrote, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." The danger here is patience, the willingness to wait, to hold, to let silence press heavier than any speech. Jung noticed something similar. The psyche bends most not under force, but under the quiet gravity of presence. Think of a conversation. Someone asks you a sharp question, hoping to corner you. Most people rush to answer, spilling words that weaken their stance. But if you pause, if you let the silence stretch, if you look steadily before responding, the power shifts. Your words weigh more because they arrive late. Picture a negotiation. One party hurries to prove their case, desperate to seal the deal. The other sits back, unhurried, their options unspoken but present. Without a single threat, the second party gains the upper hand. Their willingness to walk away is louder than any argument. Or consider relationships. The one who constantly demands attention rarely holds influence, but the one who adds value quietly, solving problems, listening deeply, making life smoother, becomes indispensable. Without ever asking, they are granted respect. Silent leverage is not passivity, it is strategic restraint. You don't need to announce your strength, you allow others to reveal their weakness. You don't need to threaten, you let them feel the weight of losing you. The paradox is that silence often provokes confession. In the discomfort of empty space, people speak more than they intend, exposing motives and secrets. When you are comfortable with silence, you control the rhythm of the interaction. But here lies the warning. Silence must not be used to manipulate others into harm. Its highest use is to stabilize, to clarify, to guide. When you employ silent leverage ethically, you create win-win outcomes, and that makes your presence irresistible. Ask yourself, do you rush to fill silence, or can you hold it long enough to let others reveal themselves? Share your answer in the comments. Because the moment you master silence, you stop chasing attention and become the center of gravity others cannot ignore. The psychological echo. The fifth ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: power comes from becoming a mirror. Most people listen only to reply. They wait for their turn to speak, rehearsing arguments in their head, projecting their own needs onto others. But those with dark intelligence do something different. They reflect. They echo back the hidden fears, the unspoken desires, the silent questions others are too afraid to voice. Niccolo Machiavelli noted, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." Jung would have added, "What people feel but cannot name is where influence begins." To echo someone's hidden psychology is to speak in their private language. Imagine a colleague saying, "I'm just tired of work." Most will respond with empty encouragement. Hang in there. But the psychologically intelligent one listens deeper. It sounds like you don't feel valued for what you're doing. Suddenly the colleague feels seen. Trust is born. Or picture a relationship. A partner snaps. You never listen. The ordinary reaction is defense. That's not true. But the psychological echo replies, "You feel invisible, don't you?" The fight collapses because the truth beneath the anger has been acknowledged. Even in leadership, echo creates gravity. Picture a manager addressing their team. Instead of barking orders, they say, "I know the pace has been exhausting, and yet you've carried it with strength." The team feels understood, and loyalty grows. Influence is not forced, it is granted. The danger is clear. When you master echo, you can easily manipulate. You can sell people their own reflection. trick them into following your script. That path corrupts, but when used ethically, psychological echo becomes a healing force. It allows people to recognize themselves in your words, and in that recognition they grant you access to their trust. Here is the paradox. People think they want advice. In truth, they want resonance. They want to feel that someone else has entered the room of their inner world and turned on the light. Ask yourself, do you listen to answer, or do you listen to reveal what the other cannot yet say? Write your reflection below. Because the moment you practice echo, you stop shouting for attention, and others begin to lean closer, convinced you can see what they could barely admit to themselves. Ambiguous morality. The sixth ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: power lives in the gray. Most people cling to black and white categories. They want heroes and villains, right and wrong, saints and sinners. But life rarely fits into such clean boxes. If you insist on purity, you will be broken by complexity. Those with dark intelligence understand that true influence often requires uncomfortable choices, decisions that may look cruel on the surface, but protect the greater whole. Machiavelli wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." Jung observed that morality collapses when it refuses to face shadow. Both point to the same truth: the world is not simple, and pretending it is makes you weak. Picture this: a leader discovers that one member of their team has been sabotaging trust. The nice choice is to forgive, to hope for change, to avoid conflict. But what about the honest employees who suffer for it? What about the clients who are deceived? Removing the saboteur may look harsh, but it protects the many. That is ambiguous morality. Or imagine a friendship where someone repeats the same destructive patterns. The kind thing would be to always comfort. The truly moral thing may be to confront, to speak the truth that wounds in order to heal. Ambiguous morality does not choose comfort, it chooses outcome. Even in love, this lesson emerges. Staying silent to keep the peace may feel kind, but it rots the relationship. Naming the disrespect, even if it causes rupture, preserves dignity in the long term. The danger of this lesson is obvious. It can easily slide into justification, a mask for selfishness. That is why Jung warned of the shadow. Without confronting your own motives, you may cloak cruelty as pragmatism. The key is not to abandon morality, but to expand it, to judge actions by results, not appearances. Here is the paradox. People may hate you for doing what is necessary. They may brand you cold, arrogant, unfeeling. But over time, those who benefit from your clarity will recognize the gift. Ask yourself, where in your life are you avoiding a difficult decision because you want to look good, rather than create good? Write your answer below. Because the moment you step into the gray, you begin to see power where others see only paralysis. Controlled exposure. The seventh ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: reveal less and you will be seen more. In our culture of oversharing, people confuse visibility with value. They pour every thought onto social media, confess secrets to strangers, narrate their private lives as if exposure equals authenticity. But the paradox is this: the more you reveal, the less weight your presence carries. The rarest power is not constant disclosure, but strategic revelation. Machiavelli observed, "Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find those who let themselves be deceived." Jung would add that the psyche fills gaps with imagination, and imagination is often more potent than facts. Controlled exposure creates those gaps. It lets people wonder. It lets their minds work on you long after you've left the room. Picture a new workplace. One employee shows all their skills in the first week, desperate to prove themselves. Another reveals talents gradually, solving problems quietly, offering insights at the right moment. Who leaves the lasting impression? The one who seems to keep unfolding, layer by layer. Or think of a romantic relationship. Someone unloads their entire history on the first date, flooding the moment with too much, too soon. Another shares slowly, letting intimacy grow in rhythm with trust. Which one feels magnetic? Which one keeps curiosity alive? Even in friendship, controlled exposure matters. Imagine you share every detail of your struggle with someone who isn't ready to hold it. They shrink, withdraw, or worse, weaponize it. But when you reveal selectively, you protect your depth until the container is strong enough to carry it. Controlled exposure is not secrecy for the sake of secrecy. It is wisdom. Once revealed, information can never be unrevealed. Once spoken, it can never be taken back. The wise reveal what strengthens connection and strategy, and keep the rest in reserve. Here is the paradox: the less you hand out freely, the more people value what you do share. Scarcity creates weight. Mystery creates presence. Ask yourself, have you been overspending your story on people who never earned it? Write it in the comments. Because the moment you choose to reveal less, you stop being consumed and start being unforgettable. Outcome obsession. The 8th ruthless lesson of dark spiritual intelligence is this: focus on results, not appearances. Most people are distracted by performance. They want to look busy, sound intelligent, appear righteous. They polish their image while neglecting their impact. But those with dark intelligence measure only one thing: did it work? Did it move reality? Did it change the outcome? Machiavelli wrote, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." Jung observed that the psyche stagnates when trapped in endless rehearsal. Both remind us, the world bends not to intentions, but to outcomes. Picture a heated argument. Most approach it as a debate to be won, scoring points, proving the other wrong. But the outcome-obsessed person asks, what do I actually want here? If the goal is peace, they choose silence. If the goal is clarity, they speak simply. Winning the fight may feed the ego, but achieving the desired outcome serves the soul. Or imagine the workplace. One employee seeks recognition, filling reports with jargon and unnecessary detail. Another cuts through the noise, focusing only on what drives results. Guess who rises faster? The one who delivers, not the one who performs. Even in personal growth, outcome obsession transforms everything. Many spend years reading, planning, dreaming, but the darkly intelligent measure change by what shifts in the real world. Did the relationship heal? Did the project move forward? Did the habit break? Intentions mean nothing if they do not alter reality. Here lies the paradox. The outcome-obsessed often appear lazier. They do less, but achieve more. They are not attached to method, only to impact. If one approach fails, they change it without ego. While others cling to process for pride, they cling only to results. The danger is obvious. Outcome obsession can corrode if divorced from ethics. Winning at any cost breeds monsters. But when guided by values, it is the most powerful compass. It strips away distraction, vanity, and fear, leaving only clarity about what truly matters. Ask yourself, am I chasing the appearance of progress or the reality of change? Share it below. Because the moment you begin measuring life by outcomes, you stop living for approval and start bending the world toward your will. Knowledge without practice is just decoration. Dark spiritual intelligence is not meant to be admired like a rare jewel. It is meant to be lived. You cannot embody these 8 lessons in theory alone. They demand action, small, deliberate steps that rewire how you move through the world. Here are 5 practices to begin. 1. Practice deliberate silence. Once today, resist the urge to fill a pause. Let the silence breathe. Watch how others rush to reveal themselves when you do not rush to explain. 2. Share 1 layer less. The next time someone asks about your plans, give an answer that reveals only half the story. Not to deceive, but to practice restraint. Feel the difference it creates in the room. 3. Train the walk-away muscle. Choose one area, work, love, or friendship, where fear of loss holds you hostage. Imagine life without it. Write down 3 reasons you would still survive. Detachment grows with rehearsal. 4. Echo. Don't advise. In your next conversation, reflect back what the other person feels rather than rushing to fix it. Say, "It sounds like you feel," and notice how instantly the atmosphere shifts. 5. Choose an outcome, not a performance. Before your next conflict, ask, what result do I actually want? Then act only in service of that outcome, not your ego. Do not attempt all at once. Pick one, practice it for 7 days. Watch how your presence changes, how people respond differently, how the room tilts ever so slightly toward you. Because dark spiritual intelligence is not about knowing, it is about becoming. You've now walked through the 8 ruthless lessons of dark spiritual intelligence. From obscurity to adaptation, from detachment to echo, from silence to outcome obsession. Each is a fragment of a deeper truth. Real power is not about domination. It is about refusing to collapse where the world expects you to. Carl Jung taught that transformation begins when we face the shadow, when we stop hiding from the parts of ourselves that unsettle others. Dark intelligence is not about becoming dangerous to the innocent. It is about becoming immune to those who would use fear, shame, or illusion to control you. Jung's method was individuation, integrating every fragment of your psyche until you are whole, unshaken, ungovernable. And that is the catharsis. Your sensitivity was never weakness. Your intensity was never too much. These were signs of depth, that the shallow could not carry. What once felt like burden is now revealed as weapon, not to wound, but to protect. So I ask you, which of these 8 lessons will you practice first? Write it in the comments with a single line. I choose. Maybe you choose silence. Maybe detachment. Maybe echo. Whatever it is, your words may be the spark another person needs tonight. If this journey shifted something in you, don't let it fade. Share it with someone who carries the same scars. Subscribe and join this community, not as routine clicks, but as an act of solidarity. Because the more of us who embody dark spiritual intelligence, the more the old scripts of fear and collapse begin to break. Stay strategic, stay ethical, stay powerful, and I'll see you in the next video, where we open another hidden door and turn another shadow into light. Until then, guard your depth and let it guide you.